I'm just going to give people a few more minutes to navigate themselves here, but this is the ADHD, Kids with ADHD. Since we have a small group, feel free to chat, feel free to actually turn off your mics and just talk to me. And we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to go over a couple of things to know, and then we will do just question and answers. All right, looks like it may be a small group. I am just going to go ahead and get started, and then if other people join us, great. So hello, welcome to you. Let me go ahead and pull up my screen here. All right, welcome to all of you guys. That's not going to let me do it that way. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, again, kind of managing ADHD in the home classroom. And again, because we have a small group, feel free to chime in, feel free to chat or just ask questions. But some of the challenges that you guys may already be facing, that this is true for a lot of the kids, but more so true with kids who may have ADHD. The biggest and first one is that they may be less able to self-direct. So you may be thinking, great, I'll get them started on their homework and then I'm going to take this conference call. For kids with ADHD, that may not work. They may be less be able to complete work. They might get it started, you might be able to get them going, and then they're not able to complete it. Some of the things may, again, you may have harder time with transitions, so especially from free time to work time. And again, kids may need more directions than just saying, okay, here's your assignment, go ahead and complete it. I don't know that that's necessarily going to work. So some of these homeschooling, the online learning is just really not applicable to kids who have ADHD. They're likely to get distracted by some of the Zoom stuff going on, may not be able to follow conversation if they're doing live classes, and they may not even be able to do online work without a lot of parental help. We also are going to talk a little bit about medication, but I want to come back to that. So I want to go through some very specific strategies for talking about ADHD and how to manage it while you're also trying to work. And then, like I said, I just want to take questions from you guys about what might be most helpful. So I think the first one is thinking about, a lot of you may also be working and just saying, well, they can do school while I work. As I said, for kids with ADHD, that may not be an option. So thinking about, is there a time where you can actually sit with them, sit by them, and do the work together? So say, you know what, I'm going to read you the directions. I'm going to help you understand this. Then maybe I can let you work on it, but I'm going to do something that I can be interrupted, like dishes, or I may work on my own project or do a puzzle while you're working. I'm not going to set you up so that you can't, so you're doing work when I'm also working. This may mean that that kid might get less direct instructional time, but it may be more valuable because they're getting that one-on-one time from you. The second is really to think about flexible in how the work gets completed. So I actually do some volunteer work in the schools, and one of the things I'll do for kids who have ADHD is they can kind of walk around and talk, and I'll actually write or type for them. So if they're needing to put together a story, that I'll say, you know what, you walk around the class, I'm just going to type whatever comes out of your mouth. It's still your work, it's still your words, I'm just helping you get it down on paper. Because sometimes the frustration is not that they can't think of the ideas, it's that they don't know how to organize it. Again, they have ADHD. There do still need to be some routine and some expectations. And again, as I said before, is to say there needs to be some work time. How and when you structure that is up to you. You know, we're really not just going to let you play Minecraft for 4 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever it may be. You do have to do some work, but we're going to be flexible about when and how that happens. Again, I think you guys may have learned this already with your kids, is that they may already have trouble dealing with transitions. So really thinking about letting them know, you know what, when you complete this level on Minecraft, you need to switch gears. We do need to do math for about half an hour, or we need to complete 4 or 5 problems, and then you can return to whatever it was you were doing. Letting them know that you are going to disrupt them, redirect them, and then helping them to redirect. Even as you're doing with this, is thinking about not only one subject at a time, but one thing at a time. So don't say, okay, here we have 15 math problems. We say, I want you to do problem 1. When you're done with problem 1, check in with me. I'll check it, then we'll go on to problem 2. To try and give them as much broken down, not overwhelming, but broken down step-by-step instructions. As I said before, one of the things, especially with kids who have ADHD, is to really open up the door to what is learning. What can be considered learning? And as I said, a lot of our kids with ADHD are not going to do well. They're not going to do great in Zoom rooms. It's going to be pretty overwhelming. They're not going to do great with log onto the computer, read the directions, and complete the work, at least not without a lot of support from you guys, which you may or may not be able to do. So what else can they do? Cooking, they have to read directions, they have to measure, right? What if they read to their brothers and sisters? Does that count? What if they want to learn something? And you guys may recognize this with your own kids, that a lot of times when they get into something, they can run with it. So to say, you know what, you want to learn about whales? Awesome. Do everything you can to learn about whales. Find a book about it, draw a picture about it, calculate how much a whale would need to eat. To really say, I'm going to let you direct what you want to learn about, rather than forcing a curriculum on you that may not be beneficial to you at all. And then I said, the other thing I was saying too, with kids with ADHD, movement is really awesome. It's really a way to get their brains going while their body's going. And one thing that we can offer them that they can't really do in a traditional classroom. So, you know, to say, all right, I want you to go do 5 sit-ups, 5 push-ups, and 5 jumping jacks. Okay, how many have you done altogether? What was your total amount of exercise? So turning it into a math problem. As I said, being able to walk around the room as they're reading a story to you, or as they're narrating something, or even working through math problems. Coming up with different ways for them to move around. Again, maybe they want their desk to be under the table. Maybe they want to jump on the trampoline while they're reading a story. To say, I'm going to give you a little bit of flexibility and not push too hard, knowing that kids with ADHD, in fact, their brains seem to sometimes work better when they're moving around. Okay. Again, you have to figure out what works for you. Trial and error, that's what all of this is about. Asking for input on what's working for them. So like Scott was talking about, that he has kids give them a grade, but to try one of these, to say, you know what, did it really help you? Did you learn more when you did your homework, you know, in the bathtub? Did that make a difference? If so, then let's do more of that. But really to say, how can we be creative and flexible in the best way we can? All right. So here's my question, come back to you guys. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to know? What would be most helpful for you guys at this point to know? Anyone have any questions?
I just love all the ideas and tricks of what to do and how to keep them focused and not kill them.
Yes, yes. I think that's definitely a good point. Anybody else want to share other tricks with each other? Things that you guys have tried that has worked or that hasn't worked? So one of the questions, a chat question, is at what age do ADHD kids no longer need someone to be near them when they are doing work? So I have a friend from college who had pretty significant ADHD, and how he basically got through college was doing exactly what I was talking about, that he would wander around his room and I would type while he talked. That's how he got papers done. So college, maybe. I don't want to be not, a pessimist, but I think it varies. It depends on the kid. That some kids are going to be able to get the skills and get the tools and figure out what works for them. They're going to be able to gain those strategies. I think for other kids, it's just going to take longer. So I don't know that there's a set time. It also depends on, again, what type of ADHD your child has. That if they're more hyperactive, that they may not need you to sit with them, but they may need more redirection. So like I said, that you could be in the other room doing dishes, but when they start to get antsy, to be able to say, you know what, take a break, get back to it. So, this notion that you have to sit next to them the entire time, that's not what I'm saying needs to happen, but you may need to pop in and out and periodically be available to them to answer those questions. What else? What else might be helpful to know? We didn't talk about medication. I just kind of want to briefly say, I don't want to go too deep into medications, but to say that I know sometimes on the weekends or on vacations, parents don't do medications. And so to think about with your physician or your therapist or your kid to say, are we going to still expect medications and how are we going to time those? Right now we give it to you in the morning because you're going to school at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now you're not going to school until 2 o'clock in the afternoon or you're not doing homework, but we also don't want to give it to you at noon because then you're not going to be able to sleep that night. So having some conversations about when and how we approach medications, or again, is this a time without the flexibility? With the flexibility that you don't use them or you try them. It's all up to you, but it's a conversation worth having with your kid and with your doctor, with your physician to say, what do we need to do? Some you have to take every day regardless. So it just really depends on the medication you're on. So what other questions? What else might you guys like to know, or any strategies or tips that you guys might have for each other? Is there anything you guys feel like is going really well right now that you're happy about? Is there anything that you guys are finding really super challenging? And again, feel free to chat as well, if that's easier. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up then if nobody has any other questions. The video and all the slides will be available on our website. So if any of you guys wanted the slides, oh, hang on. Is it common for ADHD not to ask for help even though they obviously need it? Yes, yes, what a great question. So absolutely, and that may be again that you kind of picking up to say, can I look at this with you? Not because I want to check it, but let's go over it together. Or let me look at it because it might be confusing for me too. So yes, it's really common. And one of the things I actually talk about with kids with ADHD a lot is to say your brain just doesn't work in the way other brains do. You may need extra help, even if other kids don't. But it's kind of like some kids wear glasses because their eyes don't work in the same way. There's no shame in it. There's no problem with it, but I do just want to check in. There is a space to say, I'm going to give you some autonomy. If you want to try, go ahead. But I just went to this cool talk and I learned some strategies that may be able to help you. So if you want some more help, let me know. So it says my daughter has that problem. She's so shy. She doesn't have any self-advocacy skills. Yeah, and I think that again, that one of the dilemmas with ADHD is, especially if it takes a while to get diagnosed, is that kids are made to feel stupid. They're made to feel like I can't keep up with everybody. Again, they're trying to see the blackboard without eyeglasses. And so they definitely may have some shame or some self-doubt, and really want to prove themselves that they can do this. So like I said, I routinely say your brain just doesn't work in the same way. There's nothing wrong with that. It just simply doesn't work in the same way. So you're right. You as parents may have to go to them and just say, hey, how's it going? How's the schoolwork going? I bet it's tough. I bet it's really hard. Would you like help with it? So there's a question that says, I'm worried about her being behind grade level when she goes to the next one without finishing the last one. The education system is already compensating for that. So to let you know, one is they've gone ahead and eliminated the testing for this year. They've said we're not going to do any standardized testing. The other thing is to recognize that we know that there are already huge gaps, that there are going to be kids who don't have computers, who don't have laptops. And then one of my friends who's a teacher actually told me today that she's had some parents call her and say, I'm just not doing it. I can't. I don't have it. I don't have the ability to sit with my kid or work with them. And so the teachers in a weird way are already prepared that kids are not going to be where they normally would be. So I think probably, again, if your kid's going into fourth grade, that they probably will step back and go back and catch up in some of that third grade curriculum, because the kids aren't getting it. Even if they get it online, the kids are not getting it, and they're not getting it in the same way they would from the teacher. So really, like I said, the focus of the online learning from the educators is really, we want to prevent backslide. We are not expecting you to do what we do. We are not expecting you to have them ready for the next grade. And if you have concerns about that, I would encourage you just to outreach the teacher directly and just say, you know what, I don't think we're going to be on track. And they probably will tell you the same thing, that their expectations are not super high. So again, don't feel like you guys have to do this. As I said before, SpongeBob was doing surgery with a spatula. We only have one tool. We can't do this in the way that teachers do it. So it's going to be okay. Then when you add in, again, this additional barrier of kids who may have ADHD, it just makes it a lot more complicated. It just makes it a lot harder. So again, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Right now, the goal is really to keep your sanity, to keep your kids' sanity, to keep you guys from killing each other. That's really kind of the goals of this. So don't, like I said, don't worry if you're not getting anything done, or if what you get done doesn't seem to be in line with what the teachers think needs to get done. Okay, there are some other options. So one of the other things you guys can consider is a lot of the online computer programs have made all of their stuff free during the school shutdown, and some are good and some are hard. What I mean, for kids with ADHD, some of the programs may not be very beneficial because it just requires them to sit and do more. However, something like Adventure Academy, which plays a little bit more like Minecraft or Roblox, but then in order to get to certain quests, they have to solve certain problems, feels a little bit more fun. So if you can find other online learning programs like that, like I said, Adventure Academy is a good one, that's more gaming oriented rather than school oriented, traditional, sometimes you might get more buy-in as well. And the nice thing about a lot of those online learning programs is they'll actually adapt to where your kid is. So you don't have to worry about what's the curriculum, you worry about where they're at and what skills they need to adjust to. Okay, any other questions that you guys might have? I'm actually just going to type my email into the chat right now here, so if you think of something else later, feel free to just shoot me a quick email. And I'm happy to answer any of those questions about either strategies, or like I said, I'm happy to send you the slides. We will have them available on the website, but I'm happy to email them out to you as well, if that would be helpful. All right, other questions or other things I can answer for you guys? Info about depression would be great. So that actually we will we probably will go ahead and do that as a main topic next week, and anxiety has gotten worse. Absolutely. So right now, both anxiety and depression are getting worse, in part because one is a lot of the things that we tell people to do to treat their depression, people can't do right now. So if I'm working with a kid who has depression, my directives to them are going to be go out, have fun with your friends, meet up with people, try a new activity. We can't do any of those interventions right now. So it's become a little bit more complicated to treat depression. But I think in next week's large group that I'll go ahead and take on depression as a topic. And anxiety, again, that as Dr. Seiper said in last week's session, that this has been a little bit difficult for people who already have anxiety because it's just feeding into all of their fears. So next week, he's going to go into a lot more depth and a lot more detail about that. So we definitely will have more information on both of those next week. Right? Other questions or other things that might be helpful or useful? All right, well, I will let you guys get back to your evenings and back to your families. As I said, feel free to email me if you have other questions. And then next week, I think, again, we'll dive more into the depression side of it rather than just focusing on anxiety next week. So hopefully we'll see you next week. All right, thank you guys. Have a good evening.